A tropical cyclone is rapidly developing near Australia. Multiple weather systems are converging, heavy rain, strong winds, coastal flooding possible. That's what we were looking at over the coming days. I've examined the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology, cross-referenced the Access model with the GFS and European models, and looked at historical cyclone tracks for this time of year. There is a lot to unpack here, and some of it concerning, but let's work through this methodically. Right now, conditions across northern Australia are primed for tropical development. Sea surface temperatures in the Coral Sea are sitting at 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. That warm enough to fuel significant cyclone development. The monsoon trough is positioned right across the top end and extending east into the Coral Sea. And within that trough, we've got a low pressure system that organising rapidly. As of the latest bomb analysis at 6 p.m. Eastern, the system is located approximately 800 kilometres northeast of Cairns. Central pressure is estimated at 1,002 hectopascals. Sustained winds near the centre are around 55 kilometres per hour with gusts to 75. That makes it a tropical low at this stage, not yet a tropical cyclone. But here's where it gets interesting. Every major model we're retracking shows this system intensifying over the next 48 to 72 hours. The Access model, which is the Bureau's primary forecast tool, has this reaching Category 2 strength by Saturday morning. The GFS is slightly more aggressive, suggesting Category 2 to possibly Category 3. The European model sits in between but agrees on significant intensification. What's driving this development? Three factors. First, those warm sea surface temperatures I mentioned. 29 degrees provides ample energy. Second, low vertical wind shear across the region. When upper level winds are calm, cyclones can organise efficiently without being torn apart. Third, good upper level outflow. The system can exhaust air efficiently, which maintains the low pressure at the surface. The monsoon trough is doing exactly what it's designed to do this time of year. We're in cyclone season, November through April. This is the period when tropical systems develop in Australian waters. What makes this particular setup noteworthy is the combination of atmospheric and oceanic conditions all aligning at once. Let me talk about the track forecast because this is where uncertainty increases, but also where the biggest impacts will be determined. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued a cyclone watch for coastal areas from Cooktown to Mackay, extending inland to the tablelands. That's a fairly broad watch area, which reflects the uncertainty in the exact track. The most likely scenario based on current modelling has the system tracking west-southwest over the next 2 to 3 days. If that track holds, we're looking at a potential crossing somewhere between Innisfail and Townsville on Saturday night into Sunday morning. That's a densely populated stretch of the North Queensland coast. However, and this is important, there is still considerable uncertainty in that track. The system could track further north, making landfall closer to Cooktown or even Cape York, or it could track further south, affecting areas closer to Mackay or the Whitsundays. Right now, the track envelope spans about 300 kilometres. That is normal for a system that's still developing and 4 days out from potential landfall. What's giving meteorologists a bit more confidence than usual is the steering pattern. We've got a high pressure system positioned south of Australia extending into the Tasman Sea. That high is acting like a wall, preventing the cyclone from tracking too far south. Meanwhile, we've got a trough approaching from the west. That trough will eventually help steer the system, but the timing of when the cyclone interacts with that trough will determine exactly where it crosses the coast. For those in far North Queensland from Cooktown down through Cairns, Innisfail, Townsville and across to the tablelands, this system deserves your attention. Even if the centre tracks away from your specific location, impacts will extend well beyond the eye. We're talking about a system that could have gale force winds extending 200 to 300 kilometres from the centre. Right now across North Queensland, conditions are warm and humid. Cairns has been sitting at 32 to 34 degrees with high humidity all week. Townsville similar. That's typical for this time of year, but it is worth noting because it shows the warm, moist air mass that's in place. That's the fuel this system will tap into as it approaches. Compare that to further south. Brisbane hit 30 degrees this arvo with moderate humidity. Conditions there are warm but not as oppressive as the tropics. That contrast shows the different air masses across Queensland at the moment. Down in the southern states, it's a completely different story. Melbourne reached 26 today, pleasant spring conditions. Tasmania saw minimums around 12 degrees, cool but not cold. The weather map across Australia right now is a study in contrasts, and that partly because all the active weather is concentrated in the tropics. Let's talk about timing in detail because preparation requires knowing when conditions will deteriorate. As of Thursday morning, the system is still well offshore. North Queensland coastal areas will see increasing cloud through Thursday, but conditions remain generally manageable. Showers will develop, particularly about the coast and ranges, nothing severe yet. Thursday night into Friday, that changes. The outer rain bands from the developing cyclone start to affect the coast. We're talking about periods of heavy rain, particularly about the tropical coast between Cooktown and Cardwell. Rainfall could reach 50 to 100 millimetres in those outer bands. Winds will start to increase as well. Southeast to easterly winds picking up to 40 to 60 kilometres per hour about exposed coasts. Friday daytime, conditions deteriorate further. The system continues to intensify and edge closer to the coast. Widespread heavy rain develops across North Queensland. Coastal areas could see 100 to 200 millimetres through Friday into Friday night. The ranges will see even heavier falls due to orographic lift. Wind gusts to 80 or 90 kilometres per hour are possible about exposed coastal locations. Friday night into Saturday, this is when the most significant impacts begin. If the current track forecast holds, gale force winds will develop about the coast. We're talking sustained winds of 65 to 80 kilometres per hour with gusts to 120 or even 130 kilometres per hour about exposed locations. Rainfall intensifies further. Some areas could see 200 to 400 millimetres in the 24 hours leading up to landfall. Saturday into Sunday is the critical period. If this system reaches Category 2 or 3 strength and makes landfall, coastal areas near the crossing point will experience destructive winds. Category 2 means sustained winds of 90 to 125 kilometres per hour with gusts significantly higher. That's enough to cause roof damage, bring down trees and power lines, and create dangerous conditions. Storm surge is another concern. With a cyclone making landfall, we get an abnormal rise in sea level. For a Category 2 system, that could be 1 to 2 metres above normal tide levels. When you combine that with large waves, king tides if the timing aligns, and heavy rainfall causing riverine flooding, coastal inundation becomes a significant risk. After the system crosses the coast, it will weaken rapidly. Cyclones lose their energy source once they move over land, but weakening doesn't mean the impacts end. The system will likely track inland as a tropical low, bringing heavy rainfall to inland areas including parts of the Gulf country and potentially into the Northern Territory. Many of you remember Cyclone Yasi, February 2011, Category 5 system that crossed the coast near Mission Beach. Peak wind gusts of 285 kilometres per hour recorded. Absolute destruction in the worst affected areas. This system, based on current forecasts, 1T reach Yasi S intensity, but at S still a significant tropical cyclone that requires preparation and respect. Cyclone Larry in 2006 is another comparison. Category 5 at landfall near Innisfail destroyed the banana crops, caused widespread structural damage. Again, this current system is in T forecast to reach Category 5. But Larry S track is relevant because it shows how quickly conditions can deteriorate when a cyclone makes landfall in this region. Cyclone Tracy is in everyone's memory. Christmas Eve, 1974. Category 4, when it hit Darwin, winds up to 217 kilometres per hour. Darwin was destroyed, 71 people killed. The city had to be rebuilt. That was a worst-case scenario. This system is different, tracking along a different part of the coast, but Tracy reminds us why we take cyclone warnings seriously. Let me address the intensity forecast uncertainty because this is important for understanding the range of possible outcomes. Predicting exactly how strong a tropical cyclone will become is one of the most challenging aspects of forecasting. Small changes in the environment can lead to significant differences in intensity. If conditions remain favourable, this system could reach Category 3. That means sustained winds of 120 to 165 kilometres per hour with gusts to 225 or even 240 kilometres per hour at the most extreme. Very destructive winds, roofs removed from houses, caravans destroyed, widespread vegetation damage. If conditions are less favourable, the system might only reach Category 1 or a strong tropical low. That S still significant. Category 1 means sustained winds of 63 to 88 kilometres per hour with gusts to 125 kilometres per hour. Damaging winds, minor structural damage possible. Trees and power lines down. The most likely scenario sits in the Category 2 range. that balances the favourable environmental conditions against the limitations that always exist in the real atmosphere. But it's crucial to understand that the forecast cone includes a range of possibilities. But for those in the potential impact zone, here is what you need to do. First, check your cyclone plan. If you don't have one, make one now. Know your evacuation route. Know where you'll go if you need to leave. Know what you'll take with you. The SES and local councils have cyclone preparation guides online. Use them. Second, secure your property. Bring in or tie down anything outside that could become a projectile in strong winds. Outdoor furniture, tools, trampolines, children's toys. In destructive winds, these become dangerous missiles. Clear your gutters and drains. You're going to get heavy rain. You want water to flow away from your house, not pool around the foundations. Third, stock up on essentials. You might lose power for several days. Have enough non-perishable food and water for at least 3 days. 1 litre of water per person per day as a minimum. Battery-powered radio to monitor warnings. Torch with spare batteries. First aid kit. Any medications you need. Cash, because ATMs 1T work without power. Fill your car with fuel before the system arrives. Fourth, protect your documents and valuables. Put important papers in waterproof bags. Photos, insurance documents, birth certificates, passports, anything you can replace. Consider how you will protect electronics. If flooding is possible, move valuable items to higher ground. Fifth, know your home's structural limitations. If you in a modern, well-built house on high ground, you can generally shelter safely during a Category 2 cyclone. But if you in an old Queenslander, a caravan, a tent or a temporary structure, you need to relocate to solid shelter. The SES can advise on evacuation centres. Sixth, check on your mates and neighbours, particularly elderly people living alone. Make sure they've got a plan. Offer to help them prepare if needed. Cyclone preparation is a community effort. For those with livestock, you've got additional challenges. Bring animals into shelters if possible. Make sure they have access to high ground. Secure feed stores. Document your stock numbers for insurance purposes. After the cyclone, check fences immediately because animals will escape through damaged fencing. Let's talk about specific regional impacts because the effects will vary significantly depending on your location. Cooktown and Cape York Peninsula. You are on the northern edge of the watch area. If the system tracks further north than currently forecast, you'll see the most significant impacts. Even if the centre passes to your south, you'll still experience heavy rain and strong winds, 50 to 150 millimetres possible. Wind gusts to 90 or 100 kilometres per hour about exposed coast, Cairns and the northern tropical coast. This area is right in the middle of the forecast cone, highest uncertainty but also potentially highest risk. If the centre tracks through here, you are looking at destructive winds, very heavy rainfall and coastal inundation. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Innisfail and the Cassowary coast, same situation as Cairns. You are in the high risk zone. This area has been hit before. You know what cyclones can do. Take this seriously. Townsville and the Central Coast, you are on the southern edge of the most likely impact zone. If the system tracks as forecast, you will experience significant impacts, but potentially not the worst. Still, prepare as if you are in the direct path. Heavy rain is guaranteed, strong winds are likely, flooding is possible, magnetic island. If you're on the island, you need a plan. Ferry services will be cancelled well before the cyclone arrives. If you're going to evacuate to the mainland, do it early. Don't wait until Friday afternoon when seas are already too rough. The tablelands, Atherton, Herberton, Mareeba, you are not on the coast, but you will still be impacted. Very heavy rainfall is likely, 300 to 500 millimetres possible over the event. That can cause flash flooding, particularly in creek systems. Roads will be cut. Landslides are possible on steep terrain, inland areas of North Queensland. The system will weaken as it moves inland, but heavy rain will extend well beyond the coast. Gulf country, parts of the Northern Territory, even Western Queensland could see significant rainfall. For areas in drought, this might be welcome, but it can also cause localised flooding, Mackay and the Whitsundays. You're on the southern fringe of the watch area. Current forecasts suggest you will avoid the worst, but that could change. Monitor updates closely. Even if the cyclone centre stays north, you will see increased swell, showers and fresh to strong winds. Southeast Queensland from Bundaberg down through Brisbane to the Gold Coast, you outside the cyclone warning area. You'll see some weather effects, increased cloud, possible showers as moisture streams south. But you are not looking at cyclone impacts. Normal activities can continue. But let me address something I know some of you are thinking. Is this another media beat-up? Is this just about selling bread and milk? Fair question, and I respect the skepticism. You've seen weather systems hyped before that didn't deliver. Here's my assessment. This is a legitimate developing tropical cyclone. The Bureau of Meteorology doesn't issue cyclone watches lightly. They have strict criteria. This system meets those criteria. Is it going to be Cyclone Yasi? No. Is it going to be Cyclone Tracy? No. But it's still a significant weather event that requires preparation. Could it weaken before landfall? Yes, that is possible. Small changes in the environment could limit intensification. Could it strengthen more than forecast? Also possible. The range of outcomes includes both weaker and stronger than the current forecast. What I'm not going to do is tell you to panic. What I am going to tell you is to prepare. There's a difference. Panic is irrational fear leading to poor decisions. Preparation is rational planning that gives you options. For those of you who have been through cyclones before, you know the drill. For those who haven't, listen to those who have. Learn from their experience. The rainfall from this system could be beneficial in some respects. Parts of North Queensland have been relatively dry. Water storages could use a top-up, but there's a big difference between useful rain and destructive flooding. 50 to 100 millimetres over a week is helpful. 300 millimetres in 24 hours is dangerous. We need to talk about the marine impacts because this affects a huge area beyond just the crossing point. Marine wind warnings are current for all North Queensland waters. Gale warnings will be issued as the system intensifies. If you are a recreational boater, commercial fisher or sailor, now is the time to secure your vessel or move it to safe harbour. Seas are building across the Coral Sea. By Friday, we are looking at 3 to 5 metre seas in open waters. As the cyclone approaches, seas could reach 6 to 8 metres. Those are dangerous conditions even for large vessels. Small craft should absolutely not be out in these conditions. Coastal erosion is likely, particularly about north-facing beaches. The combination of large swell, storm surge and high tides will cause beach erosion and possible damage to coastal infrastructure. Low-lying coastal areas could experience inundation even before the cyclone makes landfall. For the tourist industry, particularly around Cairns and Port Douglas, this is challenging timing. Reef tours will be cancelled, flights could be disrupted, hotels need to implement their cyclone plans. If you're a tourist in the area, work with your accommodation provider. They'll guide you through the process. Let me talk about power outages because this is one of the most likely impacts. When you get winds above 80 or 90 kilometres per hour, power lines start coming down, trees fall onto lines, poles get damaged. In past cyclones, power has been out for days or even weeks in the worst affected areas. Ergon Energy, the main electricity provider in regional Queensland, will have crews staged and ready, but they can to work while winds are still dangerous. After the cyclone passes, they'll start restoration. Priority goes to essential services first, then they work through residential areas. In remote locations, it might take longer. That's why having your own suppliers is crucial. You can rely on external help arriving quickly. You need to be self-sufficient for at least 72 hours. Water supply can also be affected. If water treatment plants lose power or if flooding contaminates water sources, you might be on a boil water alert. Another reason to stock bottled water, communications can be disrupted. Mobile phone towers run on backup batteries, but those only last so long. If power is out for an extended period, mobile coverage can fail. Landlines are more resilient, but they can still be damaged. Having a battery-powered radio becomes essential for receiving official warnings. Let's discuss the forecast update schedule because this is a rapidly evolving situation. The Bureau of Meteorology updates tropical cyclone forecast every 6 hours at minimum. When a system is near the coast, updates can be more frequent. You should be checking for updates at least twice daily, more often as the system approaches. The official warnings come through the BOM website and app. They are also broadcast on ABC radio and local commercial stations. The warnings include the current position, movement, intensity, and detailed impact forecasts for different areas. There will be graphics showing the forecast track cone. That cone represents the area where the centre could track based on historical forecast errors. It doesn't show the extent of impacts. Damaging winds and heavy rain extend well beyond the track cone. By Friday evening, we should have much better clarity on the exact track and intensity. That is when the final preparations need to be complete. Saturday morning might be too late if you are in the direct path. After the cyclone passes, Don T assume the danger is over. Damaged buildings can collapse. Power lines on the ground are lethal. Floodwaters can contain debris, chemicals and sewage. Stay home unless you need to leave. Wait for official all clear. Recovery after a cyclone takes time. Insurance assessors will be overwhelmed. Building supplies will be in short supply. Patience and community support become essential. For the rest of Australia, outside the cyclone warning area, your weather remains relatively benign. A high-pressure system continues to dominate the south. Sydney will see partly cloudy conditions, top of 26 degrees. Melbourne similar, 24 to 27 through the weekend. Adelaide dry and mild. Perth continuing dry weather, which has been the pattern for months. Tasmania stays cool. Hobart reaching 15 to 18 degrees through the weekend. Morning frosts possible inland. That cold air is quite a contrast to the tropics. The message is clear. This is a significant tropical cyclone developing near Australia. North Queensland is the focus. Preparation is essential. Don't panic, but don't ignore the warnings. Check the Bureau of Meteorology for updates. Follow official advice. Help your neighbours be ready. Stay safe, everyone. This is a serious weather event, but with proper preparation, we can minimise the impacts. That is all for now. Check back for